Well, hi everyone, welcome to the Hard Answers. I'm Tom Graham. Instead of my normal format of inundating you with a half hour of facts before I give you my opinion, I'm just going to jump into my opinion on this one. I live in Michigan, and this November we're going to vote on the Michigan Marijuana Legalization Initiative. You can read the initiative for yourself by clicking the link in the description below. This is a subject where the rubber of my core beliefs truly hit the road. One of my core beliefs is that the government should be limited and only regulate things that absolutely must be regulated. Any product, be it alcohol, guns, or marijuana, that can be used and are used responsibly by the mass majority of the people who use them should be legal. We simply need to define what irresponsible behavior is, and we need to punish that behavior, but we need to leave everyone else alone. If someone wants to brew craft beer, make wine, or grow marijuana in their basement, protected from children who might want to use it, and then drink the beer or the wine with their friends, or smoke the marijuana with their friends, as long as it's done responsibly, it should not be against the law. For marijuana, first and foremost, we need to regulate its production for resale. This production must be done by licensed individuals who comply with strict growing and processing regulations, controlling the safety, potency, purity, and efficacy of the product. Any deviation from safety, potency, purity, and efficacy regulation should result in the immediate revocation of licensure or heavy fines. Foreign chemicals, herbicides, residue, fungus, bacteria, or other potentially harmful contaminants should result in the immediate revocation of licensure or fines. However, any company or individual that can prove that they can produce it reliably will be granted a license. There should be no wiggle room for the government to withhold licensure. Then we need to regulate the packaging of marijuana. Packaging and advertising must be honest and non-fraudulent. Marijuana that is smoked contains some of the same carcinogenic chemicals that tobacco contains, so the packaging should contain a lung cancer warning. All marijuana smoke breathed by pregnant mothers, infants, toddlers, or other minor children will interfere with brain development, and marijuana can become addictive. All those warnings need to be on the label. We don't want retail packages to have fraudulent promises of non-existing health benefits, so the same regulation that applies to vitamins should apply to marijuana. Next, we need to regulate the distributors and the retailers. They should only be able to purchase marijuana from Michigan state licensed sellers. Since the federal law still outlaws marijuana, we should stay away from interstate transactions. Any retailer or distributor caught purchasing from a non-licensed source should lose their license to sell marijuana or face heavy fines. I can't buy homebrew beer from my neighbor. I can't buy homegrown cigarettes either because alcohol and tobacco are regulated. However, I can buy produce and a pie from a neighbor if my neighbor made one. In the United States, we have the FDA that regulates the manufacture, transportation, and distribution of all foods and drugs. Marijuana, regardless of its form, is a drug. It's not a food. Farmers markets are for selling food, not drugs. The special laws that allow amateur chefs to sell directly to consumers does not apply to drugs you make at home. Without a license, you should not be able to sell marijuana. Finally, we need to regulate the consumer. I don't think the consumer should be limited to purchasing marijuana from licensed sellers any more than I think terminal cancer patients should be limited to FDA-approved treatments. We all have the right to choose what we put in our bodies. DUI laws are needed for all drugs, just like alcohol, illicit or not. Field blood tests need to be created to measure THC blood levels, and regulations must set acceptable limits. OSHA still exists at the federal level and authorizes employers to do drug testing and fire employees for drug use, including marijuana use. Michigan employers will be able to fire anyone who tested over a specific blood level of THC according to OSHA. So my solution is to regulate it as a legal activity and harshly punish those who produce, package, distribute, sell, or use it irresponsibly. After I spent 2 weeks researching and coming to my conclusion, I looked at the actual legislation and I was quite surprised that it addressed all my concerns. It allows the government to regulate the growing, processing, packaging, distribution, trading, and consumption of marijuana at every level. It allows for inspections, testing, auditing, and if the government wanted to create the regulation we could implement pharmaceutical CGMP controls under this bill. It allows individuals to share what they grow with friends and limits the amount licensed individuals can grow, possess, and transport. It allows employers to continue following all OSHA standards for workplace safety and reiterates the ability of the employer to fire an employee if found on the job while under the influence. I support the Michigan marijuana legislation initiative. So now on to the facts about marijuana. You might ask yourself, it's already federal law. What makes you think I can ignore the federal law? Well, the 10th Amendment allows states not to enforce federal law because states aren't being compensated to do so. This process is called nullification. The most notable time that states used nullification was when the northern Republican states refused to enforce the federal laws that required the return of runaway slaves. Whenever the federal government makes a law that is contrary to the values of one or more states, it is the duty of that state to act as a check against the federal government. This is an integral part of our system of checks and balances. The next question might be, why would I want another addictive drug freely available to be abused? I don't want another addictive substance, but marijuana is already here, and we are fighting a losing battle and needlessly spending billions of dollars and incarcerating tens of thousands of people to make it illegal. So what do we know about marijuana? 55 million adults, or about 1 in 5 Americans, uses pot regularly. Only 38 million American adults smoke cigarettes. 92 million American adults, 1 in 3, are using opioids for pain control or recreation, heroin. THC is the chemical in marijuana that gets you high. The national THC potency in marijuana has risen from an average of 3.96% in 1995 to an average of 12.55% in 2013. The average potency in Colorado is now 17.1%, which is why it's so important to regulate the potency of the products being sold. Medically speaking, the Center for Disease Control hired the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine to design and execute a study called The Health Effects of Cannabis and Cannabinoids. There's a link to the report in the description below. The report clarifies certain things. The word does, is, and will are definitive terms used in the report and describe a causal effect has been determined. Can cause means evidence suggests that a causal effect exists, but the resulting effect may not happen. May cause means evidence slightly suggests something, but more study is needed. Not enough study has been done for 2 important reasons. Cannabis is illegal, so no long-term definitive double-blind studies have been done, which leads us to number 2. Almost all human cannabis studies of IQ and cognitive ability are flawed, since none of them know what the IQ or cognitive ability of the subjects were before they started using cannabis. This is a huge problem with the study. The same studies the CDC used could be interpreted as more people with lower IQs and lesser cognitive ability choose to use cannabis than people with higher IQs and greater cognitive abilities. Cannabis may not be causing the problem, it may just be a choice of people with lower IQs. However, continuing animal studies and human studies suggest that marijuana may cause permanent neurological issues and may cause reduced IQ. More study is needed. Therapeutic benefits. Cannabis-based products such as man-made cannabinoid-based medications may help prevent and ease nausea caused by chemotherapy. For adults with multiple sclerosis-related muscle spasms, short-term use of certain man-made and cannabinoid-based medications improved their reported symptoms. Cannabis-based products used for relief of chronic pain has virtually no evidence. Cancer risk. Cannabis may cause lung cancer. Many of the chemicals in tobacco believed to cause cancer are present in cannabis. More study is needed. Pregnancy. Smoking cannabis during pregnancy is linked to lower birth rates in babies. THC may be passed through breast milk, but more study is needed. Brain health and future outcomes. Cannabis used directly affects the brain, especially the parts responsible for memory, learning, attention, decision-making, coordination, emotions, and reaction time. Adolescents and youth and young youths. Long-term cannabis use can have permanent effects on the developing brains of adolescents and young adults. Studies have shown that if an adolescent uses cannabis before the age of 16 for a prolonged period, it can lead to a number of significant health problems. Teen cannabis users are more likely to become addicted to cannabis than people who start using the drug when they're older. Cannabis use can negatively affect adolescents and young adults' health and well-being, including their school performance, education level, social lives, and future employment and income. Driving and car crashes. Driving under the influence of any substance, including cannabis, is dangerous. Cannabis, like alcohol, negatively affects skills needed for safe driving. Heart attack, stroke, and diabetes risk. The compounds in cannabis can affect the cardiovascular system. They can have effects on heart rate and blood pressure. Previous research has found a significant increase in the risk of heart attack in the hours after cannabis use. Respiratory disease. Smoking cannabis regularly can lead to greater risk of bronchitis, cough, and phlegm production. Symptoms generally improve when cannabis smokers quit. It may cause lung cancer, but more study is needed. Basically, there's a lot of tar in cannabis. Immune function. More studies needed. We simply don't know. Mental health. Cannabis use is associated with the development of schizophrenia and other psychosis. The risk is highest for the most frequent users. Heavy cannabis users are most likely to report thoughts of suicide than non-users. Long-term cannabis users are more likely to develop social anxiety disorder than non-users. Frequent and long-term cannabis use may be linked to worsened symptoms in individuals with bipolar disorder. Problem cannabis use. The more a person uses cannabis, the more likely they are to develop a problem cannabis use, such as cannabis use disorder, dependence, abuse, or other varying levels of hazardous or potentially harmful behavior. Starting cannabis use at a younger age increases the likelihood of developing problem cannabis use. Risks of using other substances and drugs. There may be a link between using cannabis and becoming dependent and or abusing other substances, including alcohol, tobacco, and other illicit drugs. More research is needed to know if cannabis leads to using these drugs. What happens in a state when they legalize marijuana? Let's look at Colorado. Marijuana-related traffic deaths when a driver was positive for marijuana more than doubled from 55 deaths a year in 2013 to 125 deaths in 2016. During the same period of time, all traffic deaths increased 16%. During the same period of time, Colorado broke its tourism record with 77.7 million visitors spending $19.1 billion, up from 2012's 60 million visitors spending $17 billion. Because a large portion of the tourism uptick was marijuana-related, the increase in marijuana-related traffic deaths makes sense. Colorado's unemployment rate did spike 8%, but neighboring states went up much more, which may mean marijuana helped the jobs market. Colorado has experienced tremendous growth in the cannabis business ecosystem in the years since state increased access from limited medical marijuana programs to fully legalized recreational markets. Youth marijuana use. Youth past-month marijuana use increased 12% in the 3-year average from 2013 to 2015, since Colorado legalized recreational marijuana compared to the 3-year average prior to legalization in 2010 to 2012. The latest 2015 results show Colorado youth ranked number 1 in the nation for past-month marijuana use, up from number 4 in 2012 and number 14 in 2006. Colorado youth past-month marijuana use in 2015 was 55% higher than the national average compared to 39% higher in 2012. Adult marijuana use. In 2013, 10.13% of adults aged 26 years old and over were considered current marijuana users, compared to 5.45% nationally. Colorado, ranked 5th in the nation, was 86% higher than the national average. The latest 2015 results show Colorado adults ranked number 1 in the nation for past-month marijuana use, up from number 7 in 2012 and number 8 in 2006. Emergency department and hospital marijuana-related admissions. The yearly numbers of marijuana-related hospitalizations increased 72% after the legalization of recreational marijuana. But this may be just a larger subset of general hospitalizations reflecting increased general marijuana use. Diversion of Colorado marijuana. Colorado has indeed become a legal source for the illicit trade of marijuana in states where it is illegal. Most of this is transported on the road, but more and more is transported through the mail, which is a federal crime. Mexican cartels are coming to Colorado as a source for marijuana. Related data. Crime in Denver increased 6% from 2014 to 2016, and crime in Colorado increased 11% from 2013 to 2016. Colorado's annual tax revenue from the sale of recreational and medical marijuana was 0.8% of Colorado's total statewide budget. As of June 2017, there were 491 retail marijuana stores in the state of Colorado compared to 392 Starbucks and 208 McDonald's. 66% of local jurisdictions have banned medical and recreational marijuana businesses. The price of pot in Colorado went from $2,000 a pound in January 2015 to $1,300 a pound in December of 2017 and continues to decrease. As more and more states make marijuana legal, the price will go down even further. So who's buying all that pot? 51% of adult marijuana users are millennials. 34% are Generation Xers, and 15% are baby boomers. We need to take a good, hard look at whether or not we want our society to embrace cocaine, heroin, crack, meth, and other Schedule I narcotics. and why we would think marijuana, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms are any different. All have detrimental effects on society. There are tremendous costs for each, tremendous potential for abuse. Guns obviously have a huge upside in self-defense. Alcohol has been a staple of human civilization for more than 8,000 years. Tobacco is highly addictive and deleterious to society and the consumer. But we must balance whatever we figure out with people's liberty to do what they want in their own home. If a person knows the risks and is willing to take the risks and is willing to personally pay for any consequences of the risk they take, why should the government be able to stop them from owning a gun, from smoking tobacco, from drinking alcohol, or from doing weed? On the other hand, then we need to have a discussion about people on government benefits doing drugs, which will only increase the cost of government health care. Can we revoke public health care coverage if someone's found to have Schedule I drugs in their system? Do we have a responsibility to not do they have the responsibility to not do drugs and cost us more money? Just to reiterate, 55 million adults, that's about 1 in 5, American adults are using pot. Only 38 million adults smoke cigarettes. 92 million adults, 1 in 3, are using opioids for pain control or recreation, heroin. We don't want another addictive substance, but marijuana is already here. And we are fighting a losing battle and needlessly spending billions of dollars and imprisoning thousands of non-violent offenders to keep it illegal. Please click the subscribe button to see more videos like this. If you disagree with me, please leave a comment. My ears are always open and I learn new things every day when people disagree with me. I'm Tom Graham. I'll see you next time on The Hard Answers.